All right, so if you want big arms that win arguments, watch this video in full. Make sure you grab a pen and paper, and let's get into this guide, man. So why your arms aren't growing. So 3 things that I learned too late. Save yourself months of wasted time because you're probably focusing on the wrong thing. So a lot of guys, when they first train arms, they focus on mainly their biceps first. And that's like the biggest mistake that you can make, right? So make sure you're focusing on triceps, because triceps actually take up 2/3 of your arms, right? But for the most part, for some reason, when you're a beginner, you first start out on your fitness journey, for some weird reason, a lot of guys will focus on mainly their biceps for some reason. I don't know why we do this, but for some reason, they just focus all in on biceps. So you're leaving serious gains on the table when you do this, right? Because your triceps are going to take up most of your arm. So you might as well focus on what's going to actually benefit you the most, which is focusing on your triceps, right? And that brings me to the next point. There are actually 3 heads of the tricep, right? So and that's why it takes up so much spot, because there's 3 spots opposed to 2, where the bicep has 2 heads, but we'll get into that later, right? So I'm going to go through this tricep anatomy 101, right? So we're going to first go through the 3 heads of the tricep. So there's the long head, which is the biggest head, and it runs down the back of the arm and crosses the shoulder joint, right? And that's usually like the overhead work. So then you got the lateral head, which gives you the width to the arm, right? Gives you that visible, makes it more visible from the side. And then you have the medial head, which lies beneath the long and the lateral heads, right? So it provides thickness and stability, right? So that's activated in most movements, right? By the way, if you need help getting bigger arms or just starting your fitness journey, or you need a plan to get started, hit the link in the description, book a one-on-one consultation, and we'll see if it makes sense to work together, right? Little shameless plug for those of you guys that need it. Make sure you like this video and subscribe while you're at it. But let's get back to this guide. So when it comes to the long head, it's going to require a lot of shoulder flexion, right? So that's going to be a lot of things with overhead dumbbell tricep extensions, seated or standing, easy bar overhead extensions, incline dumbbell skull crushers, cable overhead tricep extensions. So that's going to be a lot of like overhead kind of stuff, like skull crushers, overhead tricep extensions, things of that nature. And that's going to be for the long head of the tricep, right? And so when we're going to the lateral head focus, right, that's going to be a lot of heavy pressing and elbow extension. So tricep push downs are going to be key for that. It's a good workout to do. Anything with a V bar or even like a rope. Dips are pretty good for this one too. Upright position emphasizes the lateral head. So yeah, for this one, you want to use heavy weight, full lockout, and maximize the lateral head tensioner. So you want to make sure that, when you're doing your rope pull downs, wherever have you, right? You want to make sure that, you're progressively overloading and, going to failure, or at least 1 or 2 reps in reserve, right? And then when we're going for our medial head focus, you're going to do a lot of like reverse grip push downs, close grip push-ups, cable kickbacks, focus on the peak, contraption, bench dips. These are pretty good workouts for that. So the medial head gets accessed, like gets activated in like most of these workouts anyways, right? It's kind of like the one in the middle that just kind of automatically gets accessed, right? But that was a lot of information that I just threw at you guys. But a good key thing to take away from this is just like, keep note of these workouts, add them to your routine, and, focusing on building your triceps, going hard on triceps. I would even do supersets with triceps, just to boost that tricep growth, because your triceps is what takes up most of your arms, right? So you might as well focus on them rather than your biceps. Just because triceps take up most of your arm doesn't mean that we should neglect the biceps, right? So we're going to get into how we can maximize our arms training biceps as well, because here's the thing. There's 2 types of people. There's people who either focus more on their short head or their long head, the bicep, right? And a lot of times, most guys only train the short head of the bicep, right? The bicep has 2 heads, long and short. And the long head focuses on the peak. On the peak of the bicep is going to make it look wide from the side, and then you got your brachialis that's going to target that arm thickness, is going to make your arms look a lot more thicker. Pause. And then you got your short head, which is going to make it look wider from the front angle, right? So exercises that target, both these things are, incline dumbbell curls, your hammer curls, right? And here's how. I'm talking about both like your brachialis and the long head, right? Because they kind of go together. They kind of focus on making your arms look wide from the side. So when we're talking about making your arms looking wide from the side, we're going to focus on the incline dumbbell curls, and they stretch the long head and they help build your peak. And hammer curls and cross body curls are really good to hit the brachialis for thickness, especially cross body curls. Those are really good for the brachialis, right? And so, and once I started targeting these areas, my arms stopped looking flat and they actually started popping. So on my personal journey, I found that focusing on the cross body curls definitely helped building a thicker looking arms. They looked a lot more 3D looking. It actually took my arms to the next level. And so the short head still matters though. And this is where I kind of messed up because I was on this side where I focused a lot more on the long head of the bicep. And it did make it look wide from the side and it got my arms bigger, but from the front angle, I felt like it was still lacking a little bit. So this past the beginning of the year, I started focusing a lot more on the short head. So I started, and like I said before, the short head focuses more on the whip from the front angle when people first see you from the front. And most guys, this is what happens. Some guys overtrain it and then they lack because they don't focus on the long head. So where I messed up, I was the opposite though. I messed up with only training the long head. Most guys only train the short head and they miss out on the long head. So there's two types of camps here, right? So on the best exercises for the short head is the preacher curl. So preacher curls, wide supinated grip, the wide grip, barbell curls, concentration curls, neutral grip, isolation. Those are going to be the best exercises for the short head. And here's how you can actually grow the short head. So the preacher curls, like I mentioned before, with the wide grip, it puts more emphasis on the short head. So usually people they do like short, what's it called, close grip for preacher curls, but that actually does the long head. So you want to go wide grip if you want to focus on the short head. And then also spider curls are pretty good. That's when you get like a bench, you have an inclined bench and you're going up against the bench and then you are doing your curls that way. And then you have your concentration curls, which is, you have like a preacher curl bench and then you take one dumbbell and you put your arm over the bench and you curl it, right? So do you need a dedicated arm day? This is something that a lot of people have questions about. Like, for example, some people think that, you need to have one day dedicated to arms, or if that's going to make much of a difference. And honestly, I think, arm days, I don't think they are required. I think as long as you're training each head of the bicep, you should be fine, right? So you can grow your arms with the push-pull legs, or like you want to do upper lower, like whatever split you choose. What actually matters is making sure you progressively overload and hitting all the heads, right? Hitting each part of the arms, right? Hitting each head of mainly focusing on your triceps, but mainly, like, honestly, I'm going to say that I don't think it really matters too much which tricep exercises you're using. As long as you maximize working on your triceps and then you hit both heads of the bicep, you should be fine. If you take anything away from this video, that's the main key, right? Proper form and recovery, of course. It actually matters, like I said, progressive overload, meaning you're gradually increasing the weight, reps, or intensity over time, and that you're training the right areas of your arms with intention. That means hitting all the heads of the triceps, both heads of the bicep and the brachialis. Whether you dedicate one day to arms or just slot them smartly throughout the week, within your split, if you're hitting them with focus and progressing, you're honestly good. Personally, I've done both. Right? There were times where I had arm days, and there was times where I've trained at the end of a push-pull leg session or whatever. And as long as I kept doing progressive overload, that's what mattered the most. But you're targeting each of the heads and you're doing progressive overload. That's the main thing, right? It doesn't matter if you dedicate an arm day, you're doing an Arnold split or full body split, or you want to do upper lower push-pull legs. As long as you are hitting both heads of the bicep and you're doubling down on your triceps, you'll see some significant growth. Progressive overload is key. You gradually, for those of you guys that don't know what that is, progressive overload is where you gradually increase the weight, reps, or sets You push your muscles beyond what they're used to, and you track the progress to avoid plateaus, right? Consistency and intensity. That's going to be key. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Make sure you tap in down below, link in the description, if you want to work with me personally so that you can reach your physique, a physique that commands attention of everybody in the audience, or tap in down below if you want to tap in with any of the other programs that I have to offer. Make sure you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. Remember, there's nothing lying about playing small. Catch you guys next video. See you.